All right, welcome to Pass the Mic. It is Friday, August 16th, 2024, episode 127. We are on Zoom. Mr. Michael Gervasi, how are you?
Great to be here. How you doing?
I'm good, good. A lot of feedback and an error last week. Quoted what I think. Again, I was not stating like I think these are facts. I think I stated like I thought I heard somewhere. I think the line I used, and I'm not. Again, I made a mistake. I'll own it.
I've heard people are saying, okay.
Yes, I heard. I saw that this election will be the first time where there's non-law degree candidates, right? And that was actually wrong since there have been other people that did not have law degrees. Denise Browning brought that quickly to our attention, and then I think I made the mistake of what I heard was that it was non-Ivy League schools, but we've already looked up, and Biden was a non-Ivy League guy.
Yeah.
One of the current president, but most of them have been
Right.
throughout the years, right? Like we looked up Trump is Penn. We just looked up.
I came across information as I was looking at things in presidents, and this was a trivia question by my stepdad. Now, I knew this person. We talked about this a minute ago, so I'm not giving anything away to you, but I knew this person was a PhD, the only PhD president, though. And I think this was right after the show, and it was just by coincidence because sadly, I don't think my mom and stepdad are listening, but the PhD president was Woodrow Wilson, who famously then became president of Princeton University. And, for all of his, progressive politics, so to speak, he was president of Princeton and was the last Ivy League school to allow African Americans in. What was a noted racist through and through, sadly. So, but Woodrow Wilson, PhD president, since we're on PhD trivia, or I'm sorry, presidential trivia, I thought I'd
So are you
throw
saying
that
that? Are you saying that Dr. Rice is more qualified than every other president besides Wilson?
You could say that. I'll go along with it.
I just, I mean, who knows? We'll have to.
Wait, are we talking with Dr. Rice? We're talking about Condoleezza Rice, Patrick
Dr.
Rice,
Michael Rice of
Michael
the
Rice,
state superintendent of
state
schools.
superintendent. Yeah, is it? He's still a state
I don't
superintendent.
know. I did not specify. We'll leave that as a mystery for our listeners. We'll have to, and good point. Well, I'm sure there's more than just those three. I'm going to go out on a limb.
I think you're right there.
I'm going to go out on a
make
limb.
That's a safe assumption. Yes.
Yes, that is a safe assumption. Unlike I heard how many presidents. Yes. So Krista Fowler gave us some great feedback as well. She liked your little rap suggestions, and she agrees with you, like some old school, like songs that told stories that had, that had stories to them. She really likes that. She's a big music buff. Miss Fowler's a big music buff, I think. She said I hit it out of the park with the three sports I mentioned: gymnastics, swim, and track and field. That's what she watches for. With the Olympics, of course, we had our Olympic special. She also took notes on the boxing controversy, which I believe that young lady is going after J.K. Rowling and what's his name, the head of Tesla, and what's his name? Elon Musk.
I was wondering if you were trying to be funny there.
No, I'm not. Sometimes he slips my mind a little bit, and now they're going after those people that facilitated, spreading something. I mean, listen, we often say we have thick skin, but I think that on a national stage, if somebody was truly misrepresenting you, your thick skin could be really tested.
Yeah. Did you use the word true or cruel? I couldn't. You broke up.
What I say?
I'm asking you. Did you say truly misrepresenting you or cruelly?
Truly. I mean, if they were cruelly misrepresenting, I think
yes. Okay.
Like I mean, but whatever. Either one.
I mean, I just looking on. I thought it was very cruel. It was
good point.
Speaking of Elon Musk, if we may digress for a second, what are your thoughts on Twitter, X?
It's not what it used to be. It used to. In all honesty, I feel like, and I still go on it every once in a while. I used to go on it because it seemed to always be where the breaking news was. Like if you wanted to know something was going on, like, before it even hit like the networks or whatever, you'd start getting initial, blips of what was going on there. And now I feel as if it's just, some things are okay. Like I follow like sports beat writers, like for example, like the NFL beat guys, the Steeler beat guys. I like to follow some like local stuff like that. But there's just very little interaction on it now. I think people have grown weary of it. Is
What
my
I'm
opinion.
finding, I wasn't a huge fan before. All I did on there was, usually draft stuff, or I'd nerd out on July 1st because that's the NBA free agency day. And Twitter was always front and center, and it still is on that day. But man, I like, other than that, I wasn't on very much. It is a total free for all on there in so many ways.
Yeah.
And this is not a shot on Musk or anybody else. This is not, I'm certainly not being political here at all. I just find, man, it is, I think, what do they call it? The global town square? Is that the famous mantra
Yes,
for it?
but I think a lot of like what pollsters point out too, and a lot of people, Twitter life is not real life. And so when you see something on Twitter, and even if it gains popularity, that's not the grand thought of what's really going on. And I tend to believe that.
Yeah, I've heard Twitter mob,
Yeah.
what I'm finding is it is bringing out the worst on both sides, frankly, if we're talking politics, the loudest voices. And man, like, there's a lot of like, stuff that pops up there just is really objectionable almost. And I'm not for censorship, but I just wonder, I don't know if Twitter is popular with kids. And I probably should
I
know
don't
that
think
as an
so. I
educator.
don't think so. I don't think kids are on there.
That's
Younger,
okay.
not even kids, younger college
So they're
students.
on
Even
other
I
forums
think.
now.
Yeah,
Okay.
are you familiar with TikTok?
No, should I be? I took. uh,
Um, and then also I just want to throw in there, Tom Pack did another great slideshow for us once again,
yeah.
as always. Great work. I almost commented on it. He posted a little FYI just to his friends on Facebook that Kroger was having a heck of a sale on Gatorade. And I almost
Yeah.
commented as to why he didn't share that with the whole Downriver community on Downriver and Friends. But Tom Pack, thank you for the especially these first days of fall sports. These athletes
Absolutely.
need to stay hydrated.
Yeah,
That's
for
always our
sure.
advice for many people.
I'm practicing. You could plug it right now. I'm getting ready for the 5K on Saturday. I ran today, and
Oh
man,
yes.
it was rough out there.
Well, the temperature is getting up, the humidity is growing up a little bit now. Yeah,
Yeah, so I could have used the Gatorade that Tom was speaking of on there.
10 for 10 at Kroger.
Yeah.
No, no endorsements here, Dr. Condoleezza Rice.
A couple things here. Antoine was grateful, mentioned his dad. Things
Yeah.
are going well. Christian Ibrahim
Yep.
sent me a text. I wanted to let everybody know he went in for an MRI scan on Monday, and everything in his scans came out perfect. His
Yep.
word.
Excellent.
So
He was at the
life is,
student council meeting this week.
yeah. Max Bailey mentioned, glad we have a history teacher to point out the difference between the steel curtain and the iron curtain.
Yes.
Also corrected me. Rob Raymond was not yet in Alaska. He was spending some time. He actually went to the Tigers Mariners game in Seattle.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
A little time in
So
Seattle.
yeah. Max also mentioned maybe we could get Darren Camilleri on the show. And I
Yeah.
mean, we joke about getting people on the show all the time. I think Max is right on this
Yeah,
one.
and I really want, I keep saying this every year. We want to go to his Fiesta fundraiser, which is it's this Friday. It's the day this is coming out, I believe,
Okay.
at the UAW hall. But again, it's the day before the Sims run. Nate's getting his wisdom teeth to violate HIPAA laws out on that Friday. So like I just couldn't do it. One of these days we're gonna go there. We're gonna go to
Okay.
that.
Yeah, for sure. Coleman Young, Max mentioned, former mayor Coleman Young, wanted the International Olympics so badly here.
Yep.
Max loves the niche sports. I agree. I thought the mountain climbing thing was
Yeah, even
climbing
more
thing was
niche
so
than the
cool.
gymnastics, swimming, and
Yeah.
track. He mentioned even like the more obscure one, and including Tony Saavedra mentioned the breakdancing.
Breakdancing, yeah. Gary Bailey, I mispronounced the correct pronunciation of the baseball player was Harvey Keene. I think Mr. Bailey wanted to take a little dig at me for the pointing out that Justin Verlander, in fact, did clear waivers. So thank you, Mr. Bailey, for that.
Speaking of baseball, the Pirates have imploded, so neither of our teams will be playing meaningful baseball games in
Dang
August
it.
or September.
Yeah, Tony Saavedra. I feel Crystal Fowler. Yeah, so that's it. That's we got everybody in
All right,
there.
excellent. Yeah, so I apologize the error about education of uh, presidential candidates.
Yeah.
All right, Mike of the week. It is yours this week. Who do you have?
Just got to go stick with the Lions theme, but we've done players. So I did a little digging. Oh man, I forgot this guy's actual title. The Detroit Lions coaching staff.
Okay.
strength and conditioning coach. I'm sorry, sports performance coach, Mike Clark.
Not Mike
Sports,
Clark from the Drew and Mike
not
show.
no, I'm not a fan. Mike Clark from the Detroit Lions staff. Yeah. So Mike Clark is
Okay.
our Mike of the week. I gotta tell you, Mike, I'm really, really getting excited. I just like I was driving today, I kind of mentally put myself in that place of the NFC championship game and just how close and there's the Lions have already been hit by the injury bug, and let's hope, they drafted two cornerbacks really early, and the third that they traded for, all three guys are a little hurt right now. Exceptional running back Jahmyr Gibbs is injured. So the injury bug doesn't hit, and that's a big if in the NFL with any
Well,
team.
it's every team
It
has to
is. It
deal with it.
is. I think that I'm feeling really good. I'm really, really excited. So yeah,
Well, and what the Vikings may have just took a big hit
they
with
did.
their quarterback,
Yeah, that's
Michigan
you hate to see that
grad.
happen,
It does.
regardless of.
It sucks. And so, but when it's the team you're playing,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be curious. I'm really gonna be curious to see how the Packers are because everyone's high on the Packers just based on a little run, and they did play the Niners tough, but so did we. But I'm still not sold on. I'm not sold on Love. I'm not. It's too. I can't believe he got that money. I cannot believe it.
They do scare me.
Okay,
And
well,
if McCarthy was healthy, they would scare me.
yeah, the
And
Vikings scared me more,
I
in my
think the
opinion.
Bears are going to be. I think the Bears are going to be much tougher this year. I can see them hovering around the 500 mark, ruining somebody's season late in the year. I could see that happening.
All right. Well, we will have to wait and see. All right, education topic. So we thought about and talked about. Uh, I thought about this as I was dealing with car issues over the last 2 weeks. Had to take the car in for the body shop. Had to take the car in for other things, and so I'll be the first one to admit this, and I think you may. I'm not the most handiest person in the world. I think I've
No.
acknowledged this before. My dad was an airline mechanic, was the total opposite of me. He would try out to almost fix almost anything and everything, whereas I'm like, I'm like, hey, give me a good phone number of somebody,
Yeah,
that I can get out,
that's me.
and I'm very thankful for like, we're good friends with Lonnie, you know,
Mhm.
Patrick, we sometimes tease Dr. Rice, but his in-laws, Jason runs a pretty good construction company, that for that sort of thing. It's always good to know people, right? Like to get that stuff done. So
Yeah.
that made me start thinking about like, okay, so I feel like I have a talent with, people skills. I'm a good writer. I'm good with my vocabulary and that sort of, we have skills that we've honed up because we're educated and have these skills, but there are things that I'm lacking in. So education this week, if you could become an expert in any skill, all right, outside of what you already are an expert in the world of education, okay, and coaching and basketball, what skill would you want to have in your back pocket? You're an expert
So
tomorrow when you wake up.
you and I we're in the exact same boat when it comes to handiness. I remember an ex relative of mine saying I was trying to do something that was way out of the realm of my capabilities, and he said, "Mike, what are you doing, man? You can't even butter your own bread." So, that sort of stuck with me. But I am going to say, and this is weird because I wish I had all those handy skills. I wish I had artistic talents. I wish I had a lot of things, but I'm going to say if I could have one skill and just master it, would be parenting. Um, I think that, there's experts all over the world that are, writing books and things that on these type of subjects that you're supposed to read and stuff like that, but every kid is so much different that to blanketly come up with rules or things to abide by that kids have to follow is silly, because and not to rip on them, because I'm sure what their approaches have worked and they're probably tried and true with a lot of people, but I'm finding it out, and we learned this, I'm sure you learned this, before you lost touch with the classroom, that when you have siblings, the worst assumption you can make as a teacher is that each sibling, the sibling is going to be the same as the other one, right? And it's not true. And in terms of as a parent now, I've really learned it. So I'm just going to go say that if I could master this thing called parenting, I think everything else in my life would fall in line, and I think I'd certainly be a millionaire if I had a capability of doing that. So that's my skill.
Well, and again, I'm not trying to. I don't even know if that's possible. These people that write these books, I don't even think in the end of it would ever be experts, because I think you mentioned the variable of every kid's different.
Mhm.
Every kid is going to experience things differently. And I just know this as a parent in the law I have made mistakes. I continue to make mistakes. I've made mistakes with infants, with toddlers, with elementary aged up to now. And so thankfully nothing drastically awful, but I know I've made some mistakes and I try to get better at it. But if you're right, if you could wake up tomorrow and be perfect, you'd be the only one in the world, in my opinion. In my opinion.
Yeah, and the other thing is, and I don't know why I thought of this as you were saying that, but the fact that people, I'm talking to the non-parents out there or the people who are ready to be parents. Never say never. Don't ever,
No,
I would never
no,
do that.
yeah, I would never do it. And don't say it about your kids either.
No,
Don't say my kid.
God, no. But I'll tell you, so I remember saying I would never, the one thing I always felt like it's pretty level-headed about other people's parenting. I've learned recently, a lot of people will tell me I'm judgmental and things like that. But I always thought with parenting, I was empathetic. The one thing I always said though, I'll never give my kids fast food. Man, when your kids start playing sports,
Yeah,
dude,
yes,
that's one of the most impossible
no, that's
goals.
impossible. It's
It's a lofty goal, but
listen, and also like when we were growing up, like I said, I think I've said this before, my mom didn't work. My mom would stay at home, and then she worked like a little bit part-time. So yeah, there was like the idea of like the family dinner where we're not eating dinner unless all four of us are sitting down and eating
yeah,
dinner.
good
Yeah,
luck with that.
yeah, with jobs and sports and different shifts. And there were nights where, I downriver gymnastics and Chili's being in the same parking lot.
Right.
I mean, I was a regular. I mean, I
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
it was like all the time. And it was, what are you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna do? Like
Right.
it is what it is. So very good though. That's a great one, because that's very unique. So I told you I had a practical one and a enjoyment one. Practical one I sort of hinted at a little bit. I would love to be more mechanically able to do stuff with a car, like change oil. Although as I talk to these people that know cars, it's getting harder and harder for even people that believe they're trained on cars. Do you understand what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Yeah.
Like and we've hinted at this before. Like back on my old cars when I was in high school, I could do a few. First of all, I can, like I think I told this story before. My dad said you're not driving anywhere until you know how to change a tire. So I can change a tire. Okay, I'll give that. And then
Yeah.
I used to do things like on my older cars, like I changed like a tail light if it burnt out, or a blink or a ball, because it was very simple. It was, you pop the cover off and do this or that. Um, when it came down to it, my dad showed me how to change the oil, and it was something I could do. But in the race between efficiency and just getting it done, I just decided I'm not dealing. Plus now, like getting rid of your oil, okay, it's because it's just a pain. So, but as far as like being able to do my own brakes or stuff like that, that would be great. And I have absolutely like no way. Like I am going to the local shop to have anything done that's substantial.
Yeah.
So that's my practical one. My enjoyment one, my personal one would be photography. Like actually being able
Oh,
to get
cool.
out there and practice and I like taking pictures. I don't think I'm good at it at all. We know we have the famous camera that we brought to Europe and we recorded past the mic. I'd like to use that a lot more. And so I would really like to, and it's something I think like, okay, as I get into retirement, my father-in-law goes into the metro parks and takes pictures. It'd be more for me, probably like nature and wildlife, just because I don't want to deal with people. No
Yeah.
offense to like I never want to be like a wedding photographer or anything like that, but like nature, scenery, stuff like that, going to a sporting event, taking cool pictures. So those are my two: practical, auto repair. I did initially have appliance repair, but to me, appliances are so, yes, it has to be done. And it's so, to me, a car is something that's always needing maintenance. You know what I mean? So if I
Yeah.
could be an expert in that, that would be something great. And again, more power to all of those people that do auto maintenance
Right.
and we talk about like us continuing to have to improve our craft. When you go look at a car nowadays, it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Like
Right. Right.
in
The
a way, it's
evolution.
nice because they stick the thing in right, and it supposedly kicks out everything that's wrong with it. Whereas back in the old day, they'd have to diagnose everything. So they get that diagnostic tool, but man, all the stuff that can go wrong is just absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And as
Well,
I talk to these guys that work on it, it's not easy to get to the stuff as it once was. Like these engineers design stuff so that everything's packed in and as light as possible, right? So that but it doesn't necessarily mean it's easy to work on.
yeah.
So
Agree.
I'd like to
Good
hear
one.
what other people have that have, it's great to learn a skill. I'd like to learn what other skills people wish they would have going forward. All right, we're going to do one more little bit of Olympics here as the Olympics
Yeah.
have wrapped up. You came up with this one. So overrated, underrated Olympic moments. Just we're not talking like, we're talking like things that stick out in the history of the games. What is your overrated?
So I'm going to preface by saying this is my bias. It's going to come through. I have some lingering resentment going on 32 years, actually 32 plus now, regarding the 92 Dream Team. And some of the controversies, obviously, with Isaiah Thomas and Michael Jordan, amongst others, that has still kind of clouded their relationship and probably always will, but the debate has come up who would win between this year's team versus that 92 Dream Team. And right now I could just hear my text threads, everybody rolling their eyes and groaning that that Dream Team would dominate, blah, blah, blah. The guys that the 92 Dream Team were playing was nowhere near what they are now. Arguably the two of the top 5 players in the world, I'm saying arguably, Nikola Jokic and Victor Wembanyama, were not American. Giannis, Greek freak. None of these guys are American now. And so our team beat much better talent than they did in 92. So when people compare all the 92 just rolled through, I think it's ignorant. I'm gonna use that word in a sense that the world is totally different now. The people we're playing against, the 92 Dream Team, in terms of cultural significance, is certainly important. I read Dirk Nowitzki really was impacted by that and made him want to become the basketball player he was. He was a German, but again, a German player, right? And so I think looking back nostalgically on that team is fine. Isaiah Thomas stuff aside, but the fact of the matter is the world is totally different now. So when people talk about that team being so great, it was very good for the time period. But if you're comparing the teams that they were playing versus now, it really is absurd. So that's my overrated.
My overrated, and I don't think I don't know. I just don't know why it's there. The closing ceremony.
Okay.
To me, it's an overrated aspect of the Olympics. Most of the athletes are gone, right? Because these athletes, they compete, they leave. It's compared to the opening ceremony, which I think is cool. Every athlete's there on the boat. They're there. The city gets. To me, I think it's more. And again, I didn't watch it. I'm not a big Tom Cruise guy. Started that right off the bat. I heard about the Tom Cruise, and I think most of it's sort of like, okay, like the handing off to LA, right, is like what happens in this. I didn't watch a bit, but I just don't think it's necessary. I wouldn't even waste the time to watch, because I think that it really is lost its, and it's sort of like something that, like, I think they do it just to do it, right? Like, we have this facility,
it's just,
we have this,
right,
where whereas the opening ceremony is what you're there for. Like, if I offered you a ticket to either one, what are you going to take? You're going to take the opening ceremony
100 times out of 100. Yeah.
100. Yeah. So I think that was for me, overrated was very easy. Underrated was hard. Overrated is very easy. Closing ceremony. What do you got as underrated? Because underrated to me was extremely hard, because Olympic moments are hard to be underrated. But what do you got?
Yeah, this was tough. It was really tough, but I'm going to go with Michael Johnson in 96. And he's on the wall, or he would have been the Mike of the week too. But in 96, his famous moment crying, I think it was such a cool moment. I think it's one of those genuine, like, just all your hard work has paid off, and you could see the emotion pouring out of him. And he's still, even this week, he took a shot at media personality Pierce Morgan for kind of downplaying certain people that won medals for different reasons. And so I think it was such a neat moment. And again, I had a really hard time with this one, because I don't know if I think people know it, so that's maybe not why it's not as underrated.
I don't think it's up there in the top ones that people think of. They think of the raised fists, or even like,
yeah, right.
Like, I mean, those are, to me, it doesn't. I mean, I remember it, but I'm not sitting there thinking that it's too much out there.
Okay. All right. Well,
I think it actually ties in mine, because I had a very tough time with this, because I think most of the ones that are known, I don't think they're overrated. They're moments in time, usually with athletes that don't, that are not the norm of athletes, that stick out. So mine is, in general, the medal ceremonies that we don't know of, or don't, that they don't
that.
televise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because maybe an American doesn't win it, so NBC doesn't cover it, or
Right.
maybe it's just some obscure
Casual
sport
mention.
where they win something. They're like, oh, they racked up the bronze. We don't get a gold in it, so and so took the bronze home in
Sure.
target shooting, and they don't show the whole, like the basketball game. And again, I'm not saying it was just because of basketball, because I'm sure they did it with when the women won. I didn't watch much of it. I'm gonna be totally honest. I watched some of the
Mhm.
sports, and then it would be on and off. But like, I'm sure when the women's gymnastics team won gold, they probably did the whole medal ceremony, right,
Mhm.
where they're on there. And I saw the thing with the two girls that bowed to the one girl.
That
But
was
like,
really neat. Yeah.
yeah, but but I just think in general, medal ceremonies, it's always the big show ones that always are on TV, but I think all those other ones are just as cool and valuable. And with the anthem going for the
Mhm.
anthems going, I think that's an underrated part, and I sort of wish they would be shown more of, for some of the also runs that were maybe third, or maybe even just other big ones that weren't Americans, but like major events. You
Good
know,
one. That's a
so
really
yeah,
good one. Um, for I do want to say, as a I really do, maybe I need to sit on a couch and really talk about this. I really do have that lingering resentment against the fact that Isaiah Thomas didn't get to play on the 92 team. But and so I've always had this inherent like slight bias against basketball, against the basketball teams. The moment this year of Steph Curry, like that last, it was
yeah,
amazing. It was such a
yep,
cool,
yep.
almost like, the reality is Golden State's probably not going to win another title with this cast of characters, and their moment is probably past. And Steph Curry is certainly on the downside of his career. Nobody will doubt that. Although with NBA players, or with athletes now in general, you never know. He could go another 8, 9 years. Who knows? But it was so cool. I also, can I just, one other one I'm curious about, that I thought about asking you about, the moment. So everybody knows the 1980 Olympic team, the hockey team, because we said Olympics, we didn't
Yes,
specify
Al
summer.
Michaels. Do you believe in miracles?
Yeah, that wasn't the championship game.
Yes,
And
it was
so
the
I think a lot of
semifinal.
people forget that, number one. And number two, hearing some of the hockey players talk about it, getting, and I'm one that always says, I really think these things are really cool, that, it kind of putting our differences aside, and coming together as a world and just playing sports and competing in a healthy way. But some of the hockey players have talked about, going on the podium at that time, and the Soviets obviously not winning, just what that meant. It was a very tense moment during the Cold War. The Soviets invaded Afghanistan. So I'm curious, would that have been an underrated moment, or is that one that's kind of widely known? The
I
medal
think
itself.
generation wise, I think most of us, I mean, and in all honesty, is Gen X. I don't know it from watching it. I know of it from hearing about it,
Okay.
because
Well, yeah, like,
we're too
yeah,
young
I
for
was two
that,
years old.
really.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but it's slowly fading. I mean, I know they made the movie with
That
not
that was
Kirk
21
Douglas, not
years
Kirk
ago.
Douglas,
Kurt
what
Russell.
Kurt Russell, not Kirk
21 years
Douglas.
ago, though. 21 years ago.
Yeah, it's
So
crazy.
yeah,
That's how old the movie is.
yeah, it was 2004.
Oh, sweet man, I'm
But
getting
I got
way
to
on
tell you,
this.
so in my classroom, we do this little project at the end of the year, a history project that we call it 40 years in 4 days or something like that. And essentially it's where we get to the point where we got to cover a lot of things. That's one of the events that's covered. The kids cover it. We end up watching the last little bit of that movie Miracle. You know, I often lament how kids aren't entertained by a lot of the things that they used to be, that used to engage them. They are into that at the end of that movie. So, when kids watch that, they all talk about, "Hey, we need to do a movie time and watch this movie." So I think that movie is going to stand the test of time with people who actually watch it. Maybe that's a movie I can get my kids to watch with me. It's such a great movie.
Unlike Big Trouble in Little China, with or Overboard.
They remade that one though.
They remade Overboard. See, I don't
They
go to the
remade
movies that much.
it.
Oh my goodness, I don't think the first
Not
one
that
was that
long ago. I
good.
mean, in the last, I'd say 4 or 5
I
years.
didn't think that first one was that good, to be honest. All right, hot mic take. What do you have for us this week?
Lots of sports talk today. So E60 and ESPN show is doing a show on Armando Galarraga this weekend,
Yes, I
and
almost texted you about that.
the perfect game that wasn't the 28 out perfect game. Um, it got me thinking a few things. First, I mean, can you name? So there's been 24 perfect games, right? Can you name 4 of them? And this is not a baseball shot either.
No,
Um,
I cannot. There's no way. Life or death, I would be dead.
My sister and I did this recently, and surprisingly, she was able to do it, because but, and it said just 4. Um, so to me, okay, I think number one, there has never been a person that, or I'm sorry, never been a person, I misspoke there. He's more famous because of what happened than if he would have got the actual perfect game. So my first question is, do you think in his mind, like, would he rather, assuming that he wants the fame, and he was wonderful about it. He was really good about it, as was Jim Joyce. I think they handled it as well as they possibly could. They made a lot of money because of it, wrote a book, so forth and so on. But if fame is the goal, he's probably better off having the misfortune of not getting the perfect game, right?
Yeah, I think he's going to be known longer, especially with the way his career panned out. That he wasn't that was it. He was not this guy that went on and pitched for a
No, he
number
was
of
a
years.
very average pitcher
He will be
before.
remembered because of this, more so
Yeah.
than if he just got the perfect game.
So is he better off not having it then?
I believe
And
so.
baseball, they're still lobbying to get the commissioner to
No,
call it a perfect game.
absolutely not.
I knew you would feel that way. I don't know where I am on that one. I can hear Max Bailey rolling his eyes right now, and so forth and so on.
Should
But
Michigan State be awarded the win over Georgia Tech in the NCAA tournament all those years ago?
there's no guarantee Michigan State wins that game.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's guaranteed he gets a perfect game if it's called correctly.
Yes,
It's the
true,
last out of
true.
it. You
You're right.
cannot,
We have these
you know what I
discussions
mean?
about sporting events. There's very few things where it's the last
This
known
is
call of the
right.
game.
There's no what if on this one. He gets the perfect game if the call is made correctly. And then it got me thinking, what other, in any walk of life, I'm thinking sports related though, what other time was a person's misfortune fortunate in a certain way? When did somebody fall into something accidentally and, because of it, I mean, again, clearly a blown call. I went back and actually watched the play, recently, and um, it's still remarkable to me that I know humans make mistakes. And again, Jim Joyce, I think was wonderful about it, but man, how he can miss that one. He must, and I'm sure he's talked about it. I'm sure that, the baseball elite will tell me, but how he missed it, man, he must
And
have had
the
a really
other
bad
thing is, and
ankle.
we've talked about this too in sporting events, the game wasn't a ALCS game 7.
No,
All right. It wasn't a determining game of who's making a wild card team or
no,
something. We see it sometime in high school sports. Officials sometimes just want to get home,
yeah,
right? Like you just want to get home.
just
Like
get out. You're right.
Carlson's up 35-6
Yeah, this
and
game's
there's a
over,
hold or
and right,
something. Let's just get home.
right,
Like, why not just like it was close enough that no one was going to be like the other team was not going to argue him being called
right,
out. You
right.
know what I mean? Like, and again, I think officials will come on here and say, "Oh, we always want to get it right,"
Yeah,
but we know that officials, and I think all the way up to the pro level. I mean, even in an NFL game, when if a team's up by 35 points in the fourth quarter, these officials are not throwing the flag on everything.
no.
They
If
want to get
nothing else,
home.
at that point, nothing good is going to come of this situation. I'm talking about the football game you're talking about now, because
Yeah,
injuries,
yeah.
so it
But
almost
I
makes
mean,
more sense. But
yeah, that's my thing too. It's like, why? Like what?
and you watch the
Like,
reactions of people, Cabrera knew it, Jim Leland
yeah.
knew it, and these are professionals.
Yeah.
Now the vitriol for Jim Joyce after the fact was really, again, he
Well,
acknowledged it.
the way they handled it tempered it really quickly.
They
Like I think
did.
if the next 24 hours don't go that way, people probably lose their mind for
But I
months.
still, from time to time, you'll see, there's a Facebook page about hating Jim Joyce or something like that.
Jeez,
That's the other part where I'm like, man, come on, yeah,
let it
he got
go.
it wrong, and it was
Yeah,
and it's too
yeah.
bad for Galarraga. But again,
But
I think they've made out pretty well on this, and Galarraga's name will forever be cast in a good light because of it, as will Jim
yeah, well,
Joyce in those
you
cases.
raise a good point on that for sure. Okay, my mic of the week. I was a little more serious last week. This week, this came to me while I was taking my walk, and I have a playlist. I know my music taste is often ridiculed on this show by you and fans alike. So I mentioned I have this random playlist, and the Doobie Brothers, "What a Fool Believes," popped up on the playlist. Good song, good
Michael
song.
McDonald, right?
Michael McDonald, and it got me thinking. I don't know why I said, it's 6 in the morning. My mind's clear. I started thinking about this, Mike, and I want to know if the listeners can. And I want your opinion on it. I want to know the listens. I think because I know if on our wall we have a number of Michaels on the wall that are either vocalists or lead singers of bands.
Mm-hmm.
I put our first name. I'll take our first name against any other first name. I think we have the deepest bench in
Wow.
the world of music. Uh, whether you like Michael Jackson or not, his voice, he'd have to be, I think, our number one. Like, there's So I'm thinking like Michael Jackson. All right, we've named these people because they've been on Mike McDonald of the
Mhm.
Doobie Brothers, who many people, a very unique voice, right? Michael
Mhm.
Bublé, that
Yeah,
soothing.
great. Right.
You know what? People joke about Michael Bolton a lot, but he has that
Yeah.
raspy voice. Michael Stipe of REM
Oh, great
could
singer.
belt it out, right? We have the guy from INXS who have had on the board. Hutchins, Michael Hutchins or Hutchins, I forget
That
exactly.
sounds right.
So there's some right there.
Are we sticking with singer? Well, Michael, I remember I used to like a song. This he was more of in the Christian realm. Michael W. Smith had a
Yeah.
pretty good voice.
But just thinking of like other names, I don't think anybody goes that deep as we do with the Michaels.
We could go rap, Killer Mike, Mike D from Beastie Boys.
Do we
Yeah.
get John? Do we get John Michael Montgomery?
What about George Michael?
Oh, it's over if we can get those two in. I mean, if I think I put George Michael on the wall, didn't I? Because I
You
thought
did, yeah, yeah,
but in all honesty, all joking aside, I
yeah.
started thinking of other names, and it's like one, maybe two, right?
And remember, we said, okay, here's the other thing. So listen, we said that the names derivatives, the name Mick is a derivative of Mike.
Oh,
So
so
does
now you're
Mick
getting,
Jagger
oh
fall?
man, now you're
Okay,
gonna
we're going too
all right,
far. Okay.
okay. But I'm just saying, okay, let's just go with the Michael, not even John Michael Montgomery or George Michael. I still think when we're talking four guys deep, 4 to 5, that have had numerous hits, okay, and Michael Jackson being
He
probably like one of
carries
those
a
people.
yes.
I
Yeah,
mean,
he
he's our Michael Jordan if this was a basketball team.
absolutely the guy,
Okay.
arguably, and again, arguably,
But
I'm
that's
not
what I'm saying.
greatest entertainer of all time.
Depth wise, I don't know who is going to match up with us. When I got Michael Jackson as my leadoff, and
Yeah.
then right behind him, either Michael Bublé, who that classic crooner voice, or and again, I like the Doobie Brothers. I think Mike McDonald's really good.
He is very good. Very soulful voice. Absolutely. Very, very
So
good.
I don't think anyone's going to be able to get us with a name that goes 4 or 5 deep. That's my point.
Mike, what's really
Now,
funny
Whitney
about
Houston,
this?
obviously, like we talked about, Whitney
Yeah,
Houston,
right.
obviously, I'll take above Michael Jackson. Okay, but how many other Whitneys are there?
Right.
Are you going for what do you got after that?
So what's really funny about this to me is you said a more serious subject.
No, I said last week was a more serious subject.
Oh, I thought you okay.
The Olympic thing. I said last week I had a serious subject. This week I was
Gotcha.
lightening it up a
Okay.
little bit.
Okay.
So nobody wants to hear about fantasy drafts, but do you have one coming up? Because I do next Saturday.
Yeah. So listen, I pick number 3. Who are
Oh,
you
that's
taking?
not a. I like that. I like that. That's where I was last year. I wish I was there last year. Are you 10 or 12 teams?
This one is 12. Now the other league, I
Don't
don't
take
have a
Jamar
first round.
Chase. Don't
Don't
take
take
Jamar
Jamar Chase.
Chase.
How come?
I just think that's who I took. He's all or nothing.
Well,
It appears,
to be fair,
and I also don't have faith in Burrow staying healthy.
that's what I was just gonna say. A year ago, he didn't have Burrow for a lot of the year, so I'm thinking about him at 3.
Is he
Really,
still
kind
the
of.
guy that's penciled there? Is that like I'm all the way at 10, so I have not looked that high up.
Mike, I'm really becoming lionized so much here that I'm thinking Jamar Gibbs maybe at 3. Jameer Gibbs, excuse me, not
Oh, I
Jamar
advise
Chase.
against that. Don't let the home cooking
It's not
influence your pick.
without this hamstring situation. I would feel pretty decent about it. You're mocking, for those of you just listening right now, not watching us on Zoom or YouTube. You just mocked me with your head nod there.
Oh, I apologize.
You're
I'm not. You know me. I'm not drafting. I can't even But Najee Harris at pick 10. I'll tell you that.
Mike. 2019 called. It's over. It's I'm sure, again, Max Bailey's rolling over in his grave right now saying, you say you love the Lions, but you're totally jinxing them right now, as if whatever I say here is going to matter. But
if anyone's still listening at this point, as we've gone into fantasy talks, so
Avon Bailey's not going to like all the jumping around.
No, although he says she doesn't even listen, so that's fine. So, so that looks like everything this week. We will be back next week because next week may be our last week with Zoom for a while. We might be able to be in the studio, right?
Can't wait to get back in. Yeah, this is. I
PD
don't
day.
like this.
A lot of,
Zoom
by the
stuff.
way, I know you're not a TikTok guy. A lot of funny TikToks going on right now about PD.
You know what? I did
making fun of PD, and there is some good stuff out there. There's I don't know if you've seen the TikToks where people are like going to a Taylor Swift concert or any concert, and they're like, I hope she plays this and this. and they're like, we're at this concert, and there's a girl, this PD, they're sitting in this huge state, it looks like a stadium, and she's like, I hope she plays, Love Story or something. And it turns to the guy, and he's like, this is professional development. And sure enough, Mike, he turns to the screen. It's this huge auditorium filled with people, some boring PowerPoint up on the screen.
So
I could not hit the heart button fast enough on this TikTok.
What are some of the buzzwords that you look forward to in PD?
Well, first of all, you better have your why. If you don't have your why, you have to have your why. If you don't have your why are you even
I'm
around?
Thinking data, tool belts, obviously curriculum, scaffolding. God. Oh dear Lord, man, we could do this for days. This would be.
Will there be groups and sticky notes with markers involved?
Icebreakers.
Icebreaker. All right, everybody. Well, maybe we should do a live episode during PD.
We might get in trouble.
That's like. All right, everybody. That looks like everything. Have a great week. We will see you next week.